What is up, Facebook world? This is Kimberly and Conor Tracy over here at Big Red SEO in Omaha, Nebraska. Hope you are doing well on your end. Conor, just a quick disclaimer. Love that we're here for you guys, or here for you guys. It looks like the internet might be running a tad bit slow, so if we freeze up, you now know why, right? So Conor, are you good? Are you good? Yeah, he's good. Maybe
I'm not good because Facebook changed things again.
I feel like in the theme, guys, like with business, life, personal, just in our world in general, there's going to be a lot of change happening. You just got to bob and weave as fast and as quick as you possibly can. In the best way that you possibly can, if that makes sense.
So right now, audio is working. Video appears to be working.
Yeah.
But right before we were about to go live, where normally we would have a button that says go live, Facebook has removed that. So now you're just supposed to start streaming and then suddenly be live. So we'll see how it goes.
I wonder if in general, like since you talked about Facebook Live last week and then all the changes, I wonder if you added and manifested a co-creation or you downloaded a new change was
If
coming.
Facebook is watching me do videos to get ideas on what they should do, please bring back the button.
We are on our 101th episode, guys. So like why?
Hang on, what was that?
101. The 101 episode.
And once.
So why would they not follow us? Why would they not look at us? But anywho, okay, so to get started, let's dive in. Today we wanted to talk to you guys about clarifying your message. So as you guys know, with the zone of genius for us being website design, SEO, pay-per-click, messaging is really, really important. A lot of times internally, we write our own content, we write clients' content. Sometimes we actually find writers and freelancers that have experience in specific industries that help us write as well. However, it always comes and flows through us. So we always set an agenda. We create personas for our clients. If you've been around us for a while, we figure out what is the intention behind the content. We deliver all of that to our writers. So they kind of have a grid and they have an understanding of who is it that they're writing for? What is the ideal client? What is the right language that needs to be said? And believe it or not, when it comes to content, we also include the things that are not to be talked about, are not to be spoken about. Mm-hmm. So today we wanted to dive in on helping people with clarifying their message and how do they go about doing that, right? One of the things that sparked this subject interest was we're currently working on a website design. A gentleman, he's launching a brand new company. He's had history in his family, lineage after lineage of kind of the industry focus. However, he's like branching off and going into a new area. So when we had the conversation of, hey, how do we go about the content? There was a moment where he was like, well, yeah, but I feel like I need to say we versus I. And I don't know if I need to say this or I don't know if I need to say that because he didn't really have a lot of experience in the industry. So we peeled back the layers of, well, who is your ideal client and how do you communicate that? And it's okay for you guys to say that it's a one-man shop or one-woman shop or a small mom and pop shop mm-hmm. or a big company. So today, Conor, are you excited? Do you want to dive into some content strategies, ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a handful of ways that I operate and have operated over the years.
Yeah.
We operate in a similar manner, and then you operate in a completely different way for different things that are going on.
So, like, if it's cool, let's go ahead and dive in. Like, share us in Conor's world, like how you operate when it comes to creating content or clarifying a message if somebody wants to create content.
I guess the big thing for me is the intended audience.
Yeah.
So if you are in an industry where people want to be handheld and they love dealing with people one-on-one and they don't want to deal with a big corporation mm-hmm. or they don't want to deal with a franchise place, then in those cases, make yourself look small.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, use the I, use the we if it is, just a small group.
Right.
Stay away from our team or our company, stay away from those kind of words and use more the inner relationship with people. You know, the I and the me and when I did, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies out there that only want to work with small businesses.
Yeah.
And we deal with that even just ourselves, where we'll get somebody who'll contact us from, Washington State and saying, well, yeah, I figured I'd contact somebody in the Midwest because the rates would be cheaper here than it would be on the West Coast. And then come to find out, they were also looking for an individual, not necessarily teams, not necessarily agencies.
They're actually looking for somebody that can give them the time and the attention versus just having an email, if that makes sense, or communicating via email. So it's a great example.
And even last night, so a buddy of mine, he wanted an HVAC company. And he had a couple different requirements. One, he wanted to work with a millennial, and bonus points if it was female-owned or small business.
Or family-owned.
Family-owned. He did not want to operate or did not want to contact a franchise or a large company. Now, the definition of a medium-sized company and a large company, that's open to interpretation. But his strict goals or his strict rules were, I want to work with a millennial and an individual.
Right.
Because he's a millennial and an individual.
Yeah.
And doesn't want to work with a corporation. So there are people out there that look like that. And then from the other side of things, there are certainly people that want to work with a team. And this is where I have problems. If you are a one-man shop or a two-man shop and you're lying about having a team of people in order to get the job, at some point you're going to get caught.
It's the whole thought process of attempting to look bigger than what you are. So here's the deal, guys, really quick, a caveat that we're going to add to this Facebook Live specifically. This is mentorship and guidance. You do what you want to do, right? So even when we sit in across from a client or a prospect, we can tell you, hey, this is how we would recommend going about it, but you actually have to decide what way to go. So whether it's whether it's we, whether it's a one-man shop or you're stating that you're bigger than what you are, the thing is that whenever you get into clarifying your message, if you make it appear that you're bigger than what you are, and this is where I'm going to come from left field here, you might actually wind up being very overwhelmed, because then all of a sudden you're kind of faking it till you make it, and you might be over promising and under delivering, or who knows what would possibly happen. Now, it is absolutely okay that if your goal in 6 months to 12 months is to have a team, you can start to build that language and articulating that. However, I would say that when it comes to business, I think that there's this myth that small business or mom and pop shop or a solo business, people don't want to do business with them. And I would like to slash that. And the reason why is, what we've found in helping hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of businesses, whether it's content or website design, is that people they truly want to get connected with a partner that's going to listen to them, that's going to be able to provide a solution to the problem, right? That can actually help them in a level that they want to be helped. And rarely do they ever say, I remember this, so this is flashing in. Rarely do we ever hear, how many employees do you have anymore? Right.
Yeah,
so when we very first started,
that.
we used to get it all the time. Well, how many employees do you guys have? I can't tell you how many times somebody had the balls to ask me very first 5 minutes in a conversation, so how much revenue does your company make? And I'm like, I'm not going to answer that question for you. One is a very inappropriate, intimate question, right? Two, it's none of your damn business. If I have to tell you my numbers in order to earn your business, that does not make any sense, right? But then to fast forward, we have not had that question, I would almost say, in 5 years, right? So even as we grew, so we've been at this gig over 9 years now, even when I grew a team, before I grew the team, that question came up a lot more, right? Now, I will admit that when it came to website design, our design looked like an agency design. Yeah. So it's that whole... was it the design? Was it the messaging? Was it the clarification that made it appear that they had to ask that question? Or was it that we're so clear on who our ideal client is now? We're so clear in the message that we have. We've clarified who we want to work with, why we want to do what we do, how we go about it, what we actually do, to the point where that question doesn't come up anymore. Does that make sense?
And you used a word while you were talking.
Did it float in and float out?
It's one of those words that, for me, it's either a trigger word, or it's an okay. I'll say it's okay in this instance. But you said that we've been at this gig for over 9 years. Yeah. And it's the word gig. And I think in the last 3, 4, 5 years, that gig economy, where everybody talks about, doing the side gigs or the Uber stuff where you're doing drivings and stuff like that. I think once it hit and went full force, that stopped a lot of people asking how many people are in your company, and that's the other. Are you a solopreneur? Is it my business or is it a company? That wordage is another topic that we can dig into. But
it's kind of interesting because I use the word gig as in this is our job. Like this is what we do, right? This is what we do. This is what we're passionate about. But I see that because like Conor does have a trigger in side gig and hustle and
gig and side hustle.
Okay, so to get back in, so for you guys to clarify your message, what we would recommend is pulling out a sheet of paper, right? And really we dive into the who, what, where, when, why, right? Mm-hmm. So on a sheet of paper, taking it all the way back to like grade school. And guys, we do this. Like we pull out a piece of paper. It's usually me and I'm going to sit there doodling and I'm drawing and Conor's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm figuring out the persona, right? So like the first area is you got to figure out who is your ideal client. So if you're just now starting your business, you might not know, right? So instead what you might have to do is, go ahead.
If you're just starting the business, you might not know. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay.
Because if you're starting the business, you should know who it is you want to be attracting. Who do you want to attract? Not necessarily who's going to buy your stuff, but who is it that you want to go after?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could from that layer. So I would say if you're starting a business, you know what service you're offering, but you probably don't know, is it going to be an entrepreneur? Is it going to be a business owner? Is it a female? Is it a male? Is it somebody that wants this or is it somebody that wants this? So I remember when we started Big Red SEO, I did not know who our ideal client was. I knew I wanted a customer. I knew that they were looking for SEO or they didn't know what SEO was, right? So in theory, that could answer your question. Sure. However, I didn't know that I actually wanted somebody that we could be comfortable sitting down and having a dinner with, and not just a 1 hour dinner, a 5 hour dinner, right? Mm-hmm. So like that would be my clarifying the message of who is your ideal client. It's the people that you want to be around consistently that you're super excited to have pick up the phone and give you a call, if that makes sense. So I could definitely see that side of it, right? But I would just give a little bit of guidance of if you're starting a business, you might say, well, I want to do this, and this is where I know I want my client. I want you guys to take a step back and be like, so who, if you had 5 people come to your door and knock and say, here's a check, what would you want those people to be? Or do you want them to be specific characteristics? Do you want them to have a certain profession? Do you want them to be located at a certain area within the country or not, right? Do you want them to be able to do face-to-face meetings? Conor loves face-to-face meetings. Now, granted, now we're in a little bit of a time, so we do a lot of video and phone. However, it's that one thing of if people are willing to do face-to-face, and we actually have clients that come in and visit us, and then we go out and visit them, right? Because that is an ideal target market. So it's really important for you to figure out who is your ideal client. So you actually know when you're walking into your door or walking into your house, where's the door located? What is the language that you're doing? Here's one caveat, pro tip is be your own damn client. Be your own damn ideal client. So if you don't really know, be like, well, one, would you buy from yourself? So you're starting a business or you're in a business for a specific reason. If you're not willing to invest in yourself for your service, you probably need to fire and close the business in the first place, right? I actually had a coaching client that I was like, they were in some resistance. And I was like, well, when was the last time that you had the service that you're offering done? And they were like, well, I have never. I wouldn't invest in that. And I'm like, well, that is a huge issue. Go invest in it, right? So the thought process is like, would you be your own client? Be your own client and then build the first persona from there, because we start a business or we're in a business or we even take a job, guys. So if you're in marketing, you take a job for a specific reason. What was that reason? Who are you talking to? Because you can feel the difference between a website that actually takes the time to figure out who they're talking to versus not. And the fastest way to remove the tire kickers, or even tire kickers can come to your website and they can view it, but they're not going to pick up the phone and waste your time if the language is articulated to an ideal client versus anybody and everybody. Does that make sense?
Very much so.
And you'll actually see that a lot of people will copy content of anybody and everyone. And then all of a sudden you look around and, you might have 5 competitors locally and everybody's message is the same. And you're like, well, my message is different. What am I doing wrong? Well, here's the deal. You're not actually doing anything wrong. We get phone calls all the time based on the fact that our faces are on our website and our content's different than everybody else. Right.
And with that, so here's tying Google into all of this.
Yeah.
Google has stated, so the Google My Business, which is the listing of business information and so forth, and even just with the websites, if your content is similar to somebody else's, Google decides which one it's going to present, and it won't present both. Yep. And this is even more true now with the Google My Business end of things. There's only 3 listings on the map for Google My Business.
Yeah.
And if your wordage is exactly the same as somebody else's or very close to it, Google just picks one. So we actually monitor our Google My Business profile and check that against different competitors locally or within a radius to make sure that our message is different enough than what they're trying to say. Yep. Even if they came through and copied our stuff, we now have to change our message again. Yeah. And that's just how it goes.
And we, like, you guys, we practice what we preach, right? So like literally earlier this week, we are resubmitting certain directory listings and we revised our entire write-up based on, okay, who is our ideal client? That's literally how we started the conversation because the description written up before, yeah, it worked at the time, but it's no longer what we want. So now we're very intentional about the words that we use. A lot of that comes from us having candid conversations with our existing clients, our prospects, or people that cross our paths that maybe right now we're not going to work with them, but in the future we would, right? Or it's partnerships. They're like, oh man, I really like whenever you use this language. This is what makes you different. But you have to figure out who is your ideal client. Then, and this is where it's a little bit different because a lot of other places are like, we'll just talk about your service first, right? No, your what comes after your who, right? Because like some people are going to want one service out of you, another is going to want another service. So like literally our last episode, 100th episode, we said, look, our zone of genius is WordPress website design, SEO, and Google AdWords, right? That's it. We can do 50 other services that we're really good at. We're both huge on education. We love learning things. We have skills on our own. However, we're not over there playing over there because that's not who our ideal client is. Our ideal client falls in one of these 3 or all 3 of these buckets. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But I will say, and this is where we learn, and this is where this comes from, clarifying the message. We had 6, 7, 8 services on our website at one point, right? Like we had it all on there. We broke it off into different sections and all that stuff, as well as added new services on there that really we didn't really want to do. Yeah, we were good at it and we onboarded. However, when we got really clear of who is your ideal client, that's whenever we started to clean that stuff up. And now it's laser pointed one way or another.
I mean, we had things on our website like domain registration and web hosting, and SSL certificates and things that, yes, they all do make up how the website's working, but number one, there's very, very low dollar revenue out of a domain name. If you're buying a domain for $12 and you're selling it to someone else for $13, you made $1 and it took you an hour to do it. That doesn't work. But removing those small items, you could make a couple dollars every year, or you could make $50 every month, depending on what it is you're selling.
Right.
But removing those and focusing on what it is that we want to go after and what clients we actually want to deal with, that makes a big difference.
So, and here's the deal is when we work with people with content, sometimes what happens is, okay, so they know who their ideal client is, or maybe they don't. Maybe they're just starting out again. Maybe they become their own ideal client to start. Then they talk about a service. A lot of times we have this fear, like people experience this fear of, well, if I don't tell everybody all the stuff I do, I'm going to lose business. Well, here's the reality, guys. Like you in this lifetime have so much time. And then, so would you rather spend, and I'm going to talk real quick to the entrepreneurs, the business owners here first. Would you rather spend all your time, not all the time, would you rather spend your time with quality ideal clients, people that you really truly want to work with, the people that appreciate and respect you, you appreciate and respect them? Or do you want to deal with the pain in the ass and the fire starters and just all the problems all the time, right? I can tell you for me which one I'm going to choose in a heartbeat, right? But I will say, in true vulnerability, I didn't always know that. I had to go through a lot of fires and a lot of problems to be able to sit here in this seat right now to tell you, hey, like there is a difference. You have a certain time frame. And when you own a business and you're in your own business, this is your journey. You can build it any way that you want. Yes, you can see a grid and a template and say, well, we do this and we do this and we do this, but really it's, I do this. How do I want to do it?
And certainly when we were starting out in the beginning and so forth, client comes to you and they dangle a check and they say,
oh man, guys,
if you guys do this, we can do this. And it's like, I kind of want the check, but
yeah, and it took us a while to get to that but. Like, I want the check, but, right? Like, I took a lot of checks and I went through a lot of different lessons. Now I'm super grateful for it, right? So, I mean, maybe you do want to go through the lessons. Maybe you don't want to clarify your message. I don't know, right?
Sometimes that check has enough zeros at the end of it.
I don't think it does. I really, being across the bridge on the other side, I don't think it has enough zeros for it.
So, what for me when it comes to the check end of things, for me, sometimes it does have enough zeros if it's something I want to learn.
Yeah.
But if it's not something that I really want to go after, dangling a check in front of me, it better have a lot of zeros.
A lot of zeros. So here's the other aspect of what, right? So it's not only what do you do, it's what do you want the person to do when they're on your website, right? Mm-hmm. So like you get somebody on your website, you tell people, hey, here's my phone number, this is what I do. Or you can even be on a networking Zoom call of this is what I offer and this is the new package I have. Okay, cool. What do you want them to do next, right? This, like asking for the sell or leading the person out of chaos, right? Providing them clarity is what's actually going to get the highest conversions. So some people will say, well, this is who my ideal client is, and this is what I have to offer. And then it's crickets, or they might just do a call to action. You need to actually walk them through the process of, okay, here's what I can do. This is how I go about it. This is what you can expect. By the way, here's our next step. And this is the other element that you need to look out for, right? So you're always educating, you're always providing information, providing value-added knowledge of the entire process, not just for you, but for the industry. That can be portrayed through videos. It can be portrayed through blog articles. It could be portrayed through steps on the actual page itself, right?
And just conversations and networking groups.
Yeah. It's really impactful when it's not just about a transaction, guys. If you know us by now, we say that all the time, right? Now, if you're an HVAC company, yeah, it might be transactional, but the difference between somebody calling you a second, third, or fourth time, right? Because they might not remember. The reality is if your AC breaks, you might not remember the company that you worked with, right? However, if you have somebody that's educating and gives you the experience, makes you feel important, makes you feel like you're the number one client versus the 10,000th client, right? Mm-hmm. If you get that feeling because you know crystal clear, who's my ideal client? What is it that I have to offer? What do I want them to do next? When are they going to need me, right? You could be like, hey, the next time your AC breaks down, do me a favor, just give us a buzz. By using the word buzz, that's different than give us a call. Does this make sense, guys?
Right.
Like using different language helps people trigger and plant the seed. So if their AC does go off and their AC is not buzzing because they want it to be cold, boom, they're going to think buzz, pick up the phone and call you because they remembered your name.
Yeah, there's definitely... From a lot of the marketing and things, the psychology of the language that's being used plays a big part in how people remember it. It's the same thing with images. People will remember images more than they'll remember words.
Yeah.
It's why real estate agents have a picture of them on their business card or on the bus bench or whatever.
Yeah.
Nobody, I don't want to say nobody cares about the name. That's not really what I want to say. But in the grand scheme of things, it's the image and the association of that's what allows them to.
Well, and even Conor found out not that long ago, I don't remember the stats, but he came across like when it comes to your website design, yeah, you can use stock images. Some people frown upon it. Some people don't. I say start with where you're at, right? If you can snap your own images and do your own, we'll do that. But if you don't really know what to do, use stock images. It's not that big of a deal. But one of the stats, which I don't remember the percentage, was that in your website, if you actually use pictures of you have a higher chance of conversion. Now, we fell into that. We tripped into that, right? 3 years ago, we started putting pictures of ourselves on our website. One, because we wanted people to know who we were. But then two, we understood the importance of being faced first in this industry, right? And then you came across that fantastic stat, which I don't remember the numbers.
I don't remember it.
But it was like, so here's the level is, it was even stating that your face will be more memorable, more recognizable than your logo. right? So people put so much time and emphasis into a logo. It's not to say that's not important.
Mm-hmm.
However, your face is what people remember.
Right.
And that's what I took away from that information that you gave.
I will find the article and I'll find the video and I'll flag it into this.
Yeah. So that's like, you come down to who's your ideal client? What is it that you have to offer? What is the next step that you want them to do? When do you want them to do it? Some people have services that are seasonal business. However, what if you didn't have to be seasonal? Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is maybe your services are seasonal, but what if you had people contacting you 2 to 3 months before the season hits to be able to get on your calendar and get in the books, right? Yep. Like, I think like sometimes we forget, like lead them through the path. So Q1, you want to be starting to think about because in Q2, you're going to call me and we're going to get you on the calendar, or call me now, get on the calendar for Q2, right?
I had a phone call this year in January from my yard guy doing the aeration and
he's
seeding.
So good at that.
He called me in January to say, hey, at the end of April, I'm going to be out there. Am I hitting you up or not?
And I think actually the first email text came out in November. Yeah. So he has it streamlined. He's like, November, January, boom, boom, boom. Here you go. Here's
reminder email.
Here's the process. Yeah. So if he doesn't respond, there's emails and there's follow-ups, right? It's super, and it's fertilization for a lawn, right? Like at the end of the day, like you wouldn't think, hopefully he tunes in. Fertilization at the end of the day, like you would be like, oh, when do I follow up, or how do I go about it? Or I'll just get to them. They'll onboard. No, he has a system through the process, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So we hope that you guys found value in this, of clarifying your message. If you need any help, it's what we do. Feel free to reach out, but start with the W's: who, what, where, when, why. The why we didn't really dive into. We're going to do that in a couple weeks. However, like, definitely take time to pull out a sheet of paper and go back to the drawing board and be like, who is my ideal client? Who is it that I want to work with every single day? Who do I want to spend my time with? What is the actual service that I do? What ways can I make that unique and make it different? What ways can I actually toot my own horn of experience? So in the meantime, you guys have a great one, and we will chat again soon.